I told you I was a refugee in 2006. So we lost our home, right? And then we had a big house. I actually, believe it or not, I lost everything when I came to the U.S. When I was a kid, I came from a pretty affluent family, actually. So we lost our home. We lost everything. I distinctly remember that the only thing we were allowed to bring was one suitcase, and because I was the dumb kid, I brought like my Legos, and the Marine opened the suitcase and he looked at it and he looked at me like I was stupid. And the mission is to try and revive American engineering, well, at least bolster it to some degree. Essentially, there's a very important piece of equipment that the U.S. military uses, and they're all made in China. And that's not good. We do armored vehicles, everything from an up-armored sedan to a bank van to an APC. We do MRAPs, everything like that.
The reason I restarted the podcast was Heartbreak with a woman as well. And that worked, that worked pretty well for me, actually. So,
College is good, but you don't need a college degree to become successful, right? I'm not going to pretend it's easy to make your way up from the ground, but it is doable, right? So I used to work 3 jobs. I worked way back. So fresh out of the Army, I worked at a cigar lounge. I was a apprentice watchmaker, believe it or not. Another side story about my grandfather, actually, he had half a lung when he died. He died in old age. He was shot in the chest, peeking out of a tank in World War II, and they thought he was dead, so they left him behind. It was the French military. And so he survived 3 days in the desert, going from...
All right, welcome to the show. Today's guest is Canaan Azzi, the founder, the chairman of the board and CEO of Blue Lotus Corporation. Welcome to the show, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here, Danny. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Oh, I usually let my guests share their story in their own words. So when, like, in whatever form you want, please share your story from your perspective.
That's a long story. But like everything? Like how I came to be or what?
Up to you, as much as you want to share.
Well, I came to the U.S. as a refugee in 2006. I'm Italian, Irish, and Lebanese. When I came to the U.S. the first time, I stayed a little bit. Then I went back because I didn't fit in school very well. Went back overseas and I started working at a young age. Saved enough money, ironically, to come back to the U.S. Few things here and there, tough spot or two. I met a girl and I joined the Army. Did a brief stint in the Army and didn't work out with the girl, but it worked out with the Army. So I got out. I did a few odd jobs here and there, and I put myself through school. So I'm a machinist, a technical drafter. Despite common misconception, I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm a mechanical designer, which is a little bit different. Not by much, though. I started my first business in 2019. It was Bombix Mori Security Services. I met all the right people. I had the resources, and did pretty well. Then I got engaged again, and that didn't work out. So I started Blue Lotus, and here I am.
I can understand that. The reason I restarted the podcast was Heartbreak with a woman as well. And that worked. Yeah, that worked pretty well for me, actually. So, sometimes it's the best thing to happen to you.
It is.
And yeah,
Well,
and
but she,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just say she's a nice girl. I have nothing bad to say about her. It was just a difference of goals, opinions. Well, not opinions, but yeah. So, but nothing bad to say about that one. But I cut you off. I digress. What were you saying?
No, same here. Sometimes it's just a misalignment. But then again, it inspires you to do something else. And I also came to the US, as a Ukrainian because of the war. And that was, an opportunity for me. But I love this country and so do you. So you joined the army as an immigrant.
Well, I should specify I'm an anchor baby, so I was born in Florida. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So although you can join the Army with a green card, you don't actually need to be a full citizen to join the U.S. military. But at least that was the case years ago. I don't know about now. I was an MP in the Army, 31 Bravo. So I was a cop. Nothing too much special there. So tell me, Danny, how did you end up coming to the U.S.?
Well, ever since I was very young, I loved America. I was a big baseball fan. My team Rangers, they won in 23 for the first time, the World Series. And I was always obsessed with this country ever since I was like a teenager. I made the videos about the US. I watched movies, YouTube, whatever that was. I worked for the US company. So where, an opportunity opened to me to move here. I got a job and I used that and now I'm here. I'm working in tech. I do this podcast. I do a lot of things. And again, I just try to live in an alignment with what I love and what resonates with me. I I basically found myself in this country because a lot of what I love, is here, and that was just a great opportunity for me.
Sounds like you're living the American dream.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, I do.
Yep.
Absolutely. So what do you do now with your company, as much as you can share it to the public?
No, I'm an open book. I can tell you whatever you want to know. So Blue Lotus is a defense firm, vertically integrated, meaning we do almost everything in-house. But we do have a vast network of manufacturers, about 37 total. So in essence, we are government contractors, but we're also planning on doing products for the civilian market. Overall, a decent venture. About 67 people. Not a huge company, but a sizable one. And again, wasn't my first rodeo, so setting this company up, I knew what not to do this time around and what to do. And if all goes well, we should have some products out very soon, including our combat knife, which I designed. That should be out before the end of the year, actually. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out and you see me on the street, just throw a quarter at me, like really angrily. Just point and laugh and call me a failure.
I don't think
No,
it's a
it's
good idea.
no, it's going well. It's going fantastic, actually. I think it's like anything else in life. If you devote your time to it, especially when driven by recent events, right? You reap what you sow. You get what you put into it, and that's all there is to it, really. And I forgot to mention also, we are almost entirely veteran owned. Well, we are veteran owned. I'm a veteran, but we're almost all veterans. So out of the 67 individuals, maybe 4 of them are not previous prior service, and the ones who aren't are either law enforcement or others. And that's the whole idea. Is Blue Lotus is extremely talented individuals, and I don't say that lightly, as well as people who actually have firsthand experience with the products that we design. And generally speaking, just trying to revive American industry. If you look at our website, we have our corporate values. So engineering excellence, American engineered, American manufactured. Overall, the mission is to try and revive American engineering. Well, at least bolster it to some degree, because you'd be surprised how much is not made in the U.S. We have a project which is crucial, right? We're trying to, without getting into too much detail because it's not finalized yet. Essentially, there's a very important piece of equipment that the U.S. military uses, and they're all made in China, and that's not good. So, yeah, we're working on that. And we are Berry Amendment compliant, if that means anything. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great initiative, and those values resonate with me a lot. Making it here, and helping, as you say, as you said, revamp American engineering. So, what kinds of products do you have? You mentioned you designed the knife, but I can imagine it's firearms or maybe something else. So,
Yeah.
what products do
Well,
you have?
so quite a few. Blue Lotus, right now, we do armored vehicles, everything from an up-armored sedan to a bank van to an APC. We do MRAPs, everything like that. I've been doing that since 2019. It's the same people. I just brought them over from the other company. We do that. We do engineering. So we do product design, defense related design. We are getting our FFL 10. We are a pretty new company, but once that comes through, the designs that we have, we start manufacturing. So essentially, Blue Lotus can do quite a lot. And then in addition to that, we also have some other tertiary things that we do. Like, for example, we do some marketing for defense companies. We have a YouTube channel that we're starting. So actually, we have some very interesting people who you may have heard of who are getting involved with that. Yeah, we do a lot. All in the interest of American manufacturing, getting people jobs, and trying to do some good, I think, especially given the recent climate, let's say. I think there's going to be a lot of money to be made in defense and a lot of good to be done with it.
Yeah, that sounds right. So running a company like yours with more than 60 employees, it's not easy, especially, if you don't have a formal business background. So did you have to learn this as you grew it, or you said it's not your first rodeo? So maybe you've learned it in the past, but what was your path to learning to run a company?
There are a few things. Number one is learning in your own time. So what I don't know, I learn, and I learn it well. And then there's also deferring to more experienced individuals, right? And this is just my personal opinion, but the majority of CEOs who proverbially shoot themselves in the foot do so because they think they know how to do everything. If somebody knows how to do your job better, then it makes sense to have them do the job. And I think that's why I made it at a relatively young age, because I know when I don't know something, right? And by giving them the opportunity, you learn from them, you see it real time, and you can become a better leader, right? And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. And loyalty and rewarding people and making sure they're appreciated, that's also important. But yeah, no, that's I think, does that answer your question? I might have gone on a tangent there a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And is did your military background help you develop those leadership skills as well?
Well, I was enlisted. I was only ever a PFC. So I was in the Army for a little bit when I got hurt, 2.5 years, almost three, actually. No, it's more than that. But I wouldn't say so. But I did do some private security work after the Army, and I did lead a few things here and there. Sometimes aptitude comes from just, how do I word it? If you're able to learn from others very well, it's not hard to see what works and apply it. I think anyway. You know. Yeah. No, I don't think the Army. I mean, the Army it gave me my foundation. I loved the Army. I miss it dearly, actually, which is not something most people say. But well, let me think about that. I would say it helped me develop skills as far as working with teams. I would say that it helped me appreciate individuals, learn to delegate. I would say that it taught me discipline because I was not when I was a kid. I was a pretty rowdy kid, actually. I used to be one who got in fights in school a lot. So when I was in school, I got a GED, actually. But yeah, that's look. The truth is, it's college is good, but you don't need a college degree to become a success, right? I'm not going to pretend it's easy to make your way up from the ground, but it is doable, right? So I used to work three jobs. I worked way back. So fresh out of the Army, I worked at a cigar lounge. I was a apprentice watchmaker, believe it or not. I hated that job, by the way. And I was a terp, a translator, right? And then later on, of course, I got into some more interesting stuff that led into what I do now. But yeah, there's no easy way to the top, but it doesn't mean it's impossible, right? So again, I don't know if I'm answering these questions very well. I don't often do interviews, so
No, no, you're answering them great. My next question is like a direct follow-up because you mentioned that as an example, now chaotic times in the geopolitical arena, and there is an opportunity to capitalize on that in the defense sector. And I think part of what you're describing of becoming successful is learning to not bend under pressure, but use it in your advantage. So would you say that, say, uncertainty or chaos can be leveraged to either to make money or to evolve personally or make some kind of progress and basically leverage negativity and outside chaos in a positive way for yourself?
I'd argue that that answer. It's a twofold answer here. I would say that learning how to handle yourself well under stress, under pressure, and not panic can lead to opportunities that others would otherwise miss. As far as directly profiting from chaos, it's definitely a thing. I mean, war profiteering is a thing, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a moral thing, but it is a thing. In my experience, it's not the chaos specifically that people profit from, it's the before and after. So when people are preparing for something, there's money to be made there. And then when people are recovering from something, there's money to be made there. Generally speaking, chaos is not good for anybody, quite literally. It's not ideal. But handling stress is an important skill. And like I told you, I was a refugee in 2006. So we lost our home, right? And then we had a big house. I actually, believe it or not, I lost everything when I came to the U.S. When I was a kid, I came from a pretty affluent family, actually. So we lost our home. We lost everything. I distinctly remember that the only thing we were allowed to bring was one suitcase. And because I was a dumb kid, I brought like my Legos. And the Marine opened the suitcase and he looked at it and he looked at me like I was stupid. And I just didn't. Um, but yeah, no, that. And yeah, handling stress, truth be told, is one of the most important, crucial parts of being a leader. That and thinking quickly, reacting appropriately, not overreacting. Yeah, I think so.
Can one work on that and learn to handle stress better? So my question would be, does it come from self-work and reflection, or maybe part of it is just natural and some people are just better at handling stress under pressure?
So I would say yes, some people are natural, I don't know what you call it, adept at handling stress. I was not, actually. When I was a kid, I was very temperamental, very nervous. I didn't handle stress very well at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as handling stress, I mean, you're forged in fire, right? So nobody's born perfect. Nobody's born with this natural ability to do everything 100%. Some people are natural leaders, right? So I've been accused of being charismatic and maybe even a little charming, which I absolutely deny. And that comes in handy in business, right? That's a natural thing. But as far as handling stress, I had to learn that when I was a kid. Now, naturally, I grew up in the Middle East and I've lived through 4 wars. So that does have a tiny effect on one's psyche and makes you a little more capable. But yeah, no, you can learn to handle stress. Matter of fact, I would say that it's essential to learn to handle stress. I think that yeah, and it comes with experience too. right? So it's your life experiences make you who you are, quite literally forged in fire. Well, maybe not literally. I would hope not literally. That'd be concerning. But I think yeah, it's and the military helps. And I won't deny, actually, and circling back to that, I think well, let's say that is one thing that the Army gave me, as the ability to handle stress a little better, tied in with everything else, and not losing one's cool is very important. It's composure, right? You ever look at these, the soft guys like Green Berets, Navy SEALs? They don't freak out, right? You ever meet them? They're probably the calmest people in the room, except for this one friend of mine, but keep him safe. Yeah, composure and patience. Patience is a big one. Right? I think there's no set answer for leadership. Right? People have different leadership styles. Right? So it's like, so me, for example, I'm very direct. If there's a problem, I resolve it with my team. Right? And if there's stress and I recognize that somebody's cracking, right, I pull them aside and then I have somebody else take care of it, or I take care of it myself. Yeah. I think there's multiple answers to this question, really. Invariably, handling stress is important. Yes. So I suppose that was a long way of saying yes.
Yeah, and I like what you said about being forged in fire, and a lot of it resonates with me. If it wasn't for a lot of adversities that I had to go through personally, I wouldn't become who I am. And sometimes I tend to think that I find myself thinking that I'm grateful for those negative experiences because they taught me to be stronger, to handle myself better. But it's interesting because not everyone does that. Some people are just can't handle tough situations and they bend under pressure, and it impacts them negatively more than positively. So how do you rise to the occasion, or however one can describe that? How do you grow from adversity rather than get down or bend under pressure?
It's a tough one. I would argue that it really is circumstantial. I think some people, right, who have, like, okay, so I've been through a few things in life. I don't generally talk about it. Matter of fact, I'm a little awkward talking about it, I'm sure. Some people end up like me. They compartmentalize, they understand, they comprehend, and then they apply. Other people crack, and they are never the same. There are plenty of people like that. And then other people that find a balance. Yeah, it depends. It's circumstantial. It's luck. It's God, maybe. Who knows? It's something. Some people are predisposed to tolerating stress. Other people are not, and some people crack. Some people don't. There's really no one size fits all answer, and that applies to leadership, by the way. Because if you think about it objectively, you have to recognize these things in other people. Right. So it's like you have an employee who does not handle stress well. Well, you're not going to put him in a high stress situation. You're going to make sure he does his job and you're going to accommodate, right? Because that's good leadership, accommodation. It's the ones who try to shove the star peg through the circle hole. That's a terrible metaphor. I couldn't think of anything else. It's the ones who try to force it that don't succeed and they end up damaging their teams. It's if you have a high turnover, if you got people fired every day, and mind you, I have never had to fire anybody that I have hired. Right, we're a relatively new company, but nonetheless, those guys, you know, yeah, they don't make it. It's like I said, no one size fits all solution, unfortunately. And if there was, which there's not, then I don't imagine society would be very diverse and interesting. I mean, case by case, just like engineering, you solve problems and you find solutions. Yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know. I think anyway.
Yep. Um, let's say a 20-year-old guy or a girl is listening to this podcast and they haven't figured out what they want to do. I don't know if you resonate with that when you were 20, but what kind of advice would you give them for life?
When I was 20, I was enlisted. It's a lot of advice. Pick your friends very carefully. Save your money. Watch your credit. That's one that young people are not good at. Don't borrow money if you don't have to. I would say, personally, I think everybody should serve in the military at least once in their life. It's a very controversial statement, but I do believe in it. And just think ahead. If you're 20 years old and you say, I don't know what I want to do, well, that's too late. You should have known when you graduated, right? Or if you didn't graduate, either way. Have a plan, make sound decisions. If you don't know how to do something, ask somebody who does. That's one of the more important ones. There's a lot of young people trying to act like they know everything when they really don't. There's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know. Matter of fact, I would say that the people with the most integrity that I've ever met are the ones who are not afraid to say, I don't know. So is that good advice? Oh, also don't do drugs. There you go. Standard PSA. No, yeah, and don't smoke or drink at a young age. A lot of young people spend their money on that. That's actually kind of an important one. I was partially joking when I said it at first, but it is true. It's being 20 to 25 sucks. It is the worst part in most people's life, but it is the most important part. So you have to build a foundation because you can't have a house without a foundation. So if you start young and you dedicate yourself to things, then you have a future. Whereas if you go all over the place and you don't know what you're doing, then invariably what's going to result is you're going to have a tougher time when you're older. Hope that's a good answer.
Yeah, yeah. And the last topic I want to cover before we finish is mentorship. Many people who came on the show in the military and even people not associated with the armed forces, many of them find tremendous value in mentorship, and I always willing to learn how mentors or leaders in people's life affected them. So what's your story around mentorship?
As in me being mentored or me being a mentor?
Both.
My grandfather built a business empire out of nothing. It's all gone now. It was gone when I was a kid. We lost it during the war. But so he came from a small town, a village actually, 200 people or so. I got drafted by the French military during the war, went overseas, did his thing, came back and built essentially an empire. Two hotels, a casino, high-rise condos, everything. And I'll never forget one thing he said to me when I was a kid. I remember. I'll leave out the circumstances because it probably would make another family member not look so good. But somebody was yelling at me. And I remember, and I was little, I had to be like 7. And my grandfather told the person to go away. And then he told me, he said, nothing in life is more important than getting an education. He said, you don't have to have a college degree, but you have to know how to do something. Because if you don't have a skill, then you don't have a livelihood. Yeah. Another side story about my grandfather, actually, he had half a lung when he died. He died in old age. He was shot in the chest, peeking out of a tank in World War II. And they thought he was dead, so they left him behind. It was the French military. And so he survived 3 days in the desert, going from Algeria all the way back. And it's an interesting story. Yeah. And then when he got back, he got malaria and he somehow survived. And this was 1943, 44. Yeah. He's a tough guy. Yeah.
Hmm.
I got a lot of stories like that in my family, actually.
Hmm. And did you have a chance to mentor other young people?
Many times. I still do. I'm not the best at mentoring. I can be a little socially awkward. I'm not very chatty. Usually pretty quiet, actually. But yeah, few of the employees here and there, helping them, telling them how to save money, how to open their bank accounts, do things the right way that I didn't know when I was a kid. No, it goes part and parcel with trying to make this country a better place, or the world a better place for that matter. Yeah. So, and every now and then, and I do have a few people on my team who I mentor. So Sylvian, for example, I would say that I consider him a mentee, I guess. Yeah. He's the youngest one on our team, but he's doing a phenomenal job, and I'm very proud of him. Matter of fact, if you ever want to interview him, he doesn't have much. He's only 22, but he does a really good job. Yeah. And then there's always random acts of kindness. Mentoring doesn't necessarily have to be a long-term thing. Sometimes if you see somebody in a tough spot, you just help them. There's nothing wrong with that. Ironic considering what I do for a living, but nonetheless, it is true. I think, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah. So, in reference, by the way, to Forged in Fire, I should probably give credit to Stephen Powell, my chief technology officer. That's his line he uses all the time, but it resonated, so I used it there. Yeah, not as good as my chief of security's favorite line. He says, "It's live and let live until somebody has to die." So, any more questions, Danny? Let me know. I don't often do interviews, and I probably won't do one for a long time. So, whatever you want to ask, I'm an open book.
That actually was my final question, at least in my
Mhm.
notes, and I think it was a great conversation. A lot to learn from your story, especially for the young people who are listening to this. So I truly appreciate that, and that was a great time.
Absolutely, I'm glad to be here. I was going to say it's a pleasure, and yeah, I say let me know, keep me posted, and whatever I can do to help you with your stuff,